This is a special mini-reading, one that arrived not by planning, but by the quiet, insistent whisper of intuition, like a melody playing just beneath the surface of consciousness, impossible to ignore. Unlike the usual scheduled readings, this one emerged spontaneously, like a ripple in still water, carrying with it a message that needed to be spoken now, not later. There's a magnetic pull toward a particular divine masculine energy, as if the universe itself is drawing attention to a shift, a realization, or perhaps a silent cry from a soul that feels on the verge of something profound. The title of this reading hints at a powerful illusion, one that might feel all too real in the present moment. It speaks of pulling away, of distance that seems insurmountable, like watching the shoreline fade into the horizon. And yet, much like the stars that seem scattered across the night sky, but are actually bound by unseen forces of gravity, this sense of separation is not the truth. It's an illusion, a mirage in the vast desert of the mind, where fear and uncertainty distort what is actually happening. You can also follow Magnetize Official on Instagram for even more information, updates, and intuitive messages. This reading serves as a lantern in that darkness, offering clarity where confusion has taken root. The divine masculine energy being channeled here may be feeling a strong internal conflict, torn between the instinct to retreat and the undeniable connection that refuses to fade. It's like standing at the edge of a great ocean, waves lapping at their feet, knowing that the only way forward is to wade into the unknown. But fear has a way of whispering doubts, of convincing the mind that stepping back is the safest choice, and yet the heart knows better. This message isn't just for the mind to analyze, it's for the soul to feel. It's a confirmation for those who have sensed this energy in their own way, in dreams, in quiet moments of knowing, in the unexpected signs and synchronicities that seem to call out like echoes from a deeper realm. It is here to dissolve illusions, to reveal what is truly unfolding beneath the surface. So take a deep breath, feel into this message. Let it resonate in the spaces between words. The truth is often found in what cannot be seen, but only felt. And in this moment, the truth is reaching out. The divine masculine energy being channeled in this reading is experiencing an internal battle that feels like a storm raging within, yet on the outside, there is only silence. It's as if he is caught between two opposing forces, one pulling him toward the deep emotions he can no longer ignore, and the other urging him to retreat into the safety of what is familiar. This struggle is not loud or obvious to those around him. Instead, it manifests as distance, withdrawal, or an abrupt shift in his behavior. Like a traveler who suddenly stops on a winding path, staring at an unseen fork in the road, he hesitates, unsure of which direction to take. Those connected to this energy may have felt this shift like a cold wind brushing against their skin. A presence that was once warm and open now turned quiet, almost unreadable. There's a sense that he feels silenced, either by external pressures or by his own fears. It's as if he wants to speak, to express what is welling up inside him, but something holds him back, a tight knot in his throat, an invisible hand covering his mouth. The weight of unspoken words sits heavy on his chest, like a book left open on the final page, the story unfinished. This silence is not indifference, but a form of self-protection, a shield he has instinctively raised to guard the emotions that threaten to spill over. And yet, no matter how much he tries to suppress it, his soul is restless. His heart beats against the walls he has built, like waves crashing against a dam, longing to break free. To those on the receiving end of this sudden distance, it may feel like being locked out of a house that once had an open door. One moment, there was warmth, connection, a sense of being invited in. The next, the door is closed, and the key seems to have disappeared. But this withdrawal isn't about shutting someone out. It's about his own internal confusion. He may not fully understand why he is pulling back, only that something within him feels unresolved. His emotions, like tangled threads, refuse to be neatly unraveled. Every step forward seems to trigger an old wound, a buried fear, a belief that was never questioned until now. For some, this struggle may appear as a sudden shift in communication, a once flowing river that has now run dry. He may have stopped responding, gone silent mid-conversation, or seemed to vanish into the background, as if an unseen force pulled him away. To others, this withdrawal may feel more like an emotional chill, as though he is present but unreachable, his words empty, his energy distant. It's like watching a flame dim, not because the fire has gone out, but because something is blocking the air it needs to burn. This moment of pause is not the end of the story. It is a space of reckoning, a crossroads where his soul is demanding that he face what he has long avoided. The silence, the distance, the coldness. They are not rejections, but reflections of the turmoil within. He is not turning away from the connection. He is wrestling with his own shadows, trying to find his footing in emotions that feel vast and unfamiliar. It is in this space, between silence and surrender, that transformation is quietly unfolding. From the divine feminine's perspective, the sudden withdrawal of the divine masculine can feel like abandonment, as if he has turned his back and walked away without a word. It may seem like he is running, avoiding the depth of the connection, or choosing distance over devotion. But what appears to be an escape is, in truth, something far more complex. It's not a rejection, it's hesitation. His higher self speaks in quiet whispers, urging him to confront emotions that his mind isn't yet ready to process. This is not about severing ties, but about wrestling with the weight of his own feelings, trying to make sense of something that defies logic. Like a traveller who has stumbled upon an ancient map written in a language he does not understand. He knows there is meaning here. He just doesn't know how to read it yet. Deep down, he doesn't want to create confusion or pain. He wants to explain, to reach out and offer clarity, but the words refuse to come. It's as if they are trapped beneath the surface, buried under years of conditioning that taught him to suppress rather than express. He may rehearse what he wants to say in his mind, crafting sentences that never find their way into reality. Every time he considers breaking the silence, an invisible force pulls him back. A fear of saying the wrong thing, of revealing too much, of losing control over emotions that feel too vast to contain. The silence, then, is not indifference, but uncertainty. It is not a lack of care, but a struggle to articulate feelings that are too big for words. For the divine feminine, this period of withdrawal can feel like a cold and empty void, an unsettling contrast to the warmth that once existed. But beneath the quiet, something is shifting. His higher self is not absent. It is guiding him, nudging him toward understanding. He is not running away from the connection itself. He is stepping away from the fear that he may not be able to meet it fully. This is not a closed door, but a moment of recalibration. Like the moon retreating behind the clouds, his light is not gone. It is simply obscured for now, waiting for the right moment to shine again. If the divine feminine could hear his soul speak, it would not say, "I am leaving." It would say, "I am searching." Searching for clarity, for courage, for the ability to stand in this love without feeling like he must shrink or flee. The truth is that he doesn't want distance, he wants understanding. But until he finds it within himself, he may not know how to offer it outwardly. And so, the silence remains, not as a punishment or a dismissal, but as a space in which something deeper is unfolding. The misconception is that he is gone. The reality is that he is still here, just navigating the unknown in his own way. The divine masculine is caught in a paradox, moving in the opposite direction of his heart's true desires. It's as if he's standing at the edge of a vast ocean, longing to dive in, yet holding himself back as though the waves might swallow him whole. He deeply craves the love of the divine feminine, yet the more he yearns for it, the more he convinces himself that he is unworthy of receiving it. This inner conflict creates an energetic misalignment. His heart reaches forward, but his actions pull him away. Like a musician who knows the melody by heart, but suddenly doubts his ability to play, he stumbles, questioning whether he can live up to the harmony of this connection. At the root of his hesitation lies an old wound, a belief that has taken root in his soul, like a vine wrapping around his confidence, squeezing until he doubts his own worth. He has been conditioned, whether by past experiences, societal expectations, or childhood imprints, to believe that love must be earned, that he must prove himself before he can receive it. Unconditional love, the kind that the divine feminine so effortlessly radiates, feels foreign to him. It is both a comfort and a challenge, like standing in the warmth of the sun after years in the cold. A part of him basks in it, drinking it in like rain on dry earth, but another part recoils, afraid it will disappear, afraid it is too good to be true. This fear, this deeply embedded self-doubt, creates an emotional trigger. The more love he feels, the more exposed he becomes to the possibility of losing it. His mind begins to sabotage what his heart knows to be real. Instead of leaning in, he leans away. Instead of embracing more, he gives less. It's not that he doesn't want to reciprocate, he does, desperately. But his fears whisper that he will never be enough, that if she truly saw all of him, she might withdraw the love he has come to depend on. And so, he creates the very distance he dreads, like a man building walls around himself, while secretly hoping someone will break them down. To the divine feminine, this may feel confusing, even painful. She pours love into him like an overflowing cup, yet he seems to drink less and less of it. But this is not rejection. It is resistance to the idea that he is worthy just as he is. His struggle is not with the connection itself, but with his own reflection in it. She sees him as strong, worthy, and capable of deep love, yet he cannot see himself the same way. And so, he holds back, waiting for a moment of certainty that may never come unless he allows himself to step fully into the embrace he secretly longs for. This misalignment is not permanent, but it is something he must navigate in his own time. Just as a flower does not rush to bloom before it is ready, he cannot force himself to receive love until he has unraveled the doubts that keep him from fully accepting it. The divine feminine's love is not lost on him. It lingers in his energy. It calls to him in quiet moments. It awakens something within that he cannot quite name. One day, when he is ready, he will realize that love was never something he had to chase or prove himself worthy of. It was always there, waiting for him to step into it, to receive it, not as something fragile or fleeting, but as something that was always meant to be his. The divine masculine is caught between two worlds, one where his soul longs to merge fully with the divine feminine, and another where external forces keep him tethered, unable to move as freely as he desires. It's like standing at the threshold of a door that has always been open, yet his feet feel too heavy to step through. He yearns for the connection, craves the deep intimacy and emotional safety it brings, yet something in his reality weighs him down, making it feel impossible to fully embrace. This struggle is not because he does not want love, but because he fears that stepping forward may come at a cost he is not yet prepared to pay. There is something he is carrying, a hidden weight pressing on his spirit, a responsibility, a lingering attachment, or an unspoken fear that keeps him restrained. This burden is like a storm cloud hovering over him, making it difficult to see the clear sky beyond. He may not have shared the full extent of this struggle with the divine feminine, not because he doesn't trust her, but because he doesn't yet have the words to articulate it. Sometimes it is easier to suffer in silence than to admit that he feels powerless in a situation beyond his control. He may feel like a bird with clipped wings, longing to soar, but unsure how to break free from whatever is keeping him grounded. The divine feminine, with her intuitive nature, can sense that something is off, even if she cannot fully decipher the details. It's as if she is standing in a dimly lit room, feeling the presence of something unseen, but knowing it is there. She picks up on his hesitation, on the quiet pauses between words, on the subtle ways his energy shifts when certain topics arise. Her heart tells her that there is more to the story, that his distance is not a lack of love, but a reflection of his internal battle. Yet, without full clarity, she is left in a space of uncertainty, trying to piece together a puzzle with missing pieces. What he truly desires is not just love, but the freedom to experience it fully, without limitations, without guilt, without the weight of the past or the pressure of expectations. But for now, he is caught in an in-between space, torn between what he wants and what feels possible. The journey to true freedom is not just about changing circumstances. It is about changing within, shedding the fear, and trusting that love, when it is real, is not a cage, but a home. One day, he may gather the courage to step forward, to lay down the burden he has carried alone, and to realize that love was never something he had to earn, but something that was waiting to set him free. The divine masculine is carrying a weight that is not entirely his own, like a traveler overloaded with bags he never packed. His heart longs to move forward, to embrace the love and connection he deeply desires, yet something invisible tugs at him, holding him in place. This unseen force is woven from past obligations, family expectations, career pressures, lingering ties to old relationships, or even promises made long ago that he no longer remembers but still feels bound to keep. He is like a tree with deep roots in a land that no longer nourishes him, unable to fully uproot himself and plant anew. Much of this sense of responsibility was not consciously chosen but absorbed, like ink soaking into paper. From childhood, he may have been taught that love is transactional, that to be worthy, he must serve, sacrifice, or suppress his own needs for the sake of others. Perhaps he was the caretaker in his family, the one expected to be strong, to shoulder burdens without complaint. Or maybe he was raised to believe that duty always comes before desire, that selflessness means ignoring his own dreams in favor of meeting expectations set by others. This conditioning has followed him into adulthood, shaping the way he approaches relationships, work, and even his sense of self-worth. Now, standing at the crossroads of love and obligation, he struggles to set himself free. Every step toward his heart's desires feels like a betrayal of something or someone. He wants to choose himself, to follow what truly makes him feel alive, but an inner voice, echoing the lessons of the past, whispers that doing so would be selfish. The guilt is like a chain wrapped around his soul, binding him to responsibilities that may not even be his to carry anymore. He feels trapped in a contract he never consciously signed, one that demands he keep prioritizing the needs of others while leaving his own heart's longings on the shelf. Setting boundaries feels unnatural to him, like trying to speak a language he was never taught. When he tries to say no, to put himself first, a flood of guilt rises within him, as though he is failing someone. He may even avoid difficult conversations or withdraw from those who remind him of what he truly wants, not because he doesn't care, but because facing these feelings stirs an internal battle between duty and desire. It's like standing in front of an open door, knowing freedom lies beyond it, yet hesitating, because he fears what walking through it will cost. This struggle is not about a lack of love for the divine feminine. It is about an ingrained belief that love comes with conditions, with debts to be repaid, with sacrifices that must be made. He may not yet understand that true love does not demand self-denial, but invites authenticity. He is learning, slowly, that choosing himself is not abandonment of others, but an act of alignment with his highest self. The journey ahead is not about breaking promises, but about realizing that some promises were never his to keep in the first place. One day, when he finally loosens the grip of guilt and steps into his own power, he will see that love, real love, does not chain. It liberates. The connection between the divine masculine and divine feminine is not random. It was written long before either of them became aware of it. Like a sacred thread woven into the fabric of their souls, this bond was designed to be a catalyst for transformation, particularly for the masculine, who carries deep wounds buried beneath layers of silence and unspoken pain. The divine feminine did not enter his life by accident. She was sent as a mirror, reflecting back to him the love, freedom, and healing he has struggled to claim for himself. Her presence is both a sanctuary and a storm, stirring within him emotions he has spent years suppressing and awakening, a longing for something beyond obligation and guilt. At the core of their connection lies an unspoken agreement, a spiritual contract, where the divine feminine's role is to illuminate the truth he has been avoiding. She holds the light that reveals the chains he has unknowingly carried, showing him that the burdens he clings to are not his to bear. Like a lighthouse guiding a lost ship through the fog, she calls him toward his own liberation, toward the realization that love is not meant to be heavy, but light, fluid, and freeing. Yet, the closer he comes to this truth, the more resistance he feels. The masculine has spent much of his life navigating relationships through logic, duty, and unspoken expectations. Emotional expression, especially vulnerability, has been unfamiliar terrain for him. Like a language he was never taught, but is now being asked to speak fluently. When faced with the divine feminine's energy, which is open, intuitive, and deeply feeling, he finds himself standing at a threshold he is unsure how to cross. He wants to tell her everything, to pour out the emotions locked inside him, but the words get caught in his throat, tangled with fear and old conditioning. It is not that he doesn't feel. He feels everything, often more deeply than he lets on. But expressing those emotions is another battle entirely. There is an inner war raging within him, a conflict between his heart's desire and the weight of his past. He wants to be fully present with the divine feminine, to surrender to the connection that feels unlike anything he has known. Yet his past whispers caution in his ear. He has been taught that vulnerability is weakness, that love must be earned, and that opening his heart completely means risking pain or rejection. He struggles not because he does not care, but because he has never been taught how to let love in, without conditions, without fear. The divine feminine, in her wisdom, may sense this internal struggle, though she may not fully understand its depth. She feels his hesitation, the way he pulls away even as his soul calls him forward. She sees the conflict in his eyes, the way his energy shifts between warmth and distance, love and fear. It is not that he wants to run from her. It is that he is still learning how to run toward himself. The journey of their connection is not about forcing him to change, but about holding space for his transformation. She is not here to rescue him, nor to carry his burdens for him, but to remind him that he has always been capable of freeing himself. In many ways, the divine feminine's presence is both a test and a gift. She triggers within him the recognition that he is more than his past, more than his guilt, more than the limitations he has placed upon himself. But healing is never a straight path. He may withdraw at times, not because he does not love her, but because love itself terrifies him. It asks him to be seen, to be open, to be real in ways he never has before. His silence is not rejection, but an indication of how deeply he is processing what this connection is awakening within him. Ultimately, the divine feminine's role is not to chase, fix, or convince. Her power lies in standing in her truth, in embodying the love she already knows to be real. The masculine must make his own choices, face his own shadows, and step into his own healing. The connection was never about control, but about mutual transformation. She is the flame that lights his path, but he must decide when he is ready to walk it. And when he does, when he finally steps beyond his fears and into his true self, he will understand what the divine feminine knew all along, that love was never meant to be a burden, but the very thing that sets him free. The divine masculine stands at a crossroads, caught between the familiar comfort of silence and the undeniable pull toward change. A recent event, perhaps a conversation, a realization, or even an external situation, has forced him to confront what he has been avoiding. It's as if life itself has turned up the volume on his emotions, making it impossible to ignore the truth any longer. The weight of his past and the depth of his feelings for the divine feminine are colliding, creating an inner storm that he can no longer push aside. Like a dam straining under pressure, he feels the urge to let something out, yet the fear of vulnerability still grips him. On one side, there is the safety of what he knows, remaining withdrawn, keeping his emotions locked away, and convincing himself that time will somehow resolve everything. This is the path he has walked for so long, the one that feels predictable, even if it leaves him feeling empty. On the other side is the unknown, a path that requires him to open up, to lay his heart bare, and to risk the discomfort of being truly seen. This choice terrifies him because it demands change, and change requires trust. Like a bird who has lived in a cage for years, the door is now open. But stepping out means facing the vastness of the sky. Even as he pulls back, his energy refuses to let go. It lingers in the unseen, like the scent of rain before a storm, thick with emotion and longing. He may be silent in the physical world, but the divine feminine can feel him. Through dreams, through intuitive nudges, through waves of emotion that seem to appear out of nowhere. His presence is like an echo in her soul, a constant reminder that their connection is not fading, but transforming. It is not distance that separates them now, but fear and hesitation. The next steps are not written in stone, but the energy is shifting. A moment is approaching where he will have to decide. Does he keep resisting, holding himself back from the very thing his heart is calling for? Or does he take a step forward, however small, toward healing and connection? He may not yet have the perfect words, but words are not what matters most. The universe is guiding him toward action, toward a choice that will break the cycle of avoidance. Whether through direct communication, a sign, or a meaningful gesture, something is shifting within him. The divine feminine is not meant to wait in stillness, but rather to continue moving in her own light, trusting that whatever is meant for her will align in divine timing. The masculine's path is his own to walk, but the pull toward transformation is stronger than ever. Whether he realizes it or not, he is already moving. One way or another, the next chapter is about to unfold. If you're resonating with this message, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to Magnetize Official on YouTube. Your engagement helps strengthen the energetic connection, making future readings even more aligned for you. Also, follow Magnetize Official on Instagram for more insights, updates, and intuitive messages. Your support means the world, sending you love and light.